Let's figure out how this played out, shall we?
Where are we?
What is this? Is this a theater?
This place is a real mystery. Then again, I suppose that checks out.
This is kind of like the Monokuma times, like the little segues in between chapters of Danganronpa games. This is really cool.
Huh? Shinigami?
Yeah! Master! This looks like an important turning point!
Why are you the only one with the stick up your ass? That's weird.
So, is that your final answer?
Also, you seem oddly happy about it.
I haven't said anything yet.
This is very strange. The culprit entered the lab before Amapal. Is that a proposed question?
Master, you need to narrow down the timing for when the culprit got inside.
The culprit entered the lab before Amapal. Is this the lab itself, given the security measures, or is this the doctor's physical lab? That's an important distinction here.
Now then, here's a fateful fork in the road.
Technically, yes. I believe the culprit entered the lab before Amapal did. They would have had to, because the doctor was already killed when we rolled in with the Amapal. And if the culprit made their escape by kicking Amapal over, they must have already been physically in the lab before the Amapal entered to the side of the room, hiding out of the field of view of the Amapal when it rolled inside. I'm choosing yes. Yes, I'm choosing yes.
When I directed Amapal to go into the doctor's lab, he already had a knife stuck in him.
He was already murdered.
He was murdered before Amapal entered the doctor's lab.
Your answer?
Is correct.
Is correct! Congratulations, Master! Would you like to double down?
What are you talking about?
I feel like I'm not gonna have any other
Let's
choice.
keep going.
Oh, she has a microphone like it's a game show. That's what this is. It's not a play at all. I thought it was a play. It's a game show. Okay.
Little by little, we're narrowing down when the culprit entered.
I think I got this one pretty in the bag, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I know I've said that about quite a few. I had it in the bag with Icardi, and I had it in the bag with the girls. The only thing I really didn't know was the shit about the brick and cotton and the paintbrush, because I didn't remember paintbrushes at all. I think I remembered seeing paintbrushes, but I didn't bring into account the fact that they were wet at the time.
But Fubuki waited at the front chamber while Desuhiko and I went to
I had it pretty good with the train car too, with the swapping of carriages, but I didn't expect that. I always downplay how elaborate Danganronpa murder trials can get. And I didn't take note of the track for the train to roll on and the cave and everything. I still think that's a little bit empty of a premise because the other train track didn't go anywhere special. It just rejoined with the initial track.
Back on the original path.
So that to me doesn't really have sufficient premise for a murder, and it seems kind of like winded. But like, had it actually had another destination at the end of that train track, and like the carriage swapped over and then back, that would have made more sense, I think.
Maybe you're supposed to try opening that door now.
But because the other train track, in relation to the other train track, didn't have an actual destination, it just seemed kind of stupid to me.
I'm sure that from here on out, it's not just about when, but also how the culprit got in.
This is okay. This is the next critical part in my summation that has me curious. In my theory, the culprit stood in the decontamination duct, or waited in the decontamination duct, dropped atop the Amapal, and rode atop the Amapal to bypass the electrical floor grid to avoid being shocked. And even, as I said before, as I stated, even if in the event that the Amapal was conductive, they would have not had to worry about being killed by the electric current because Fubuki had her forte of rewinding time. So the outcome would have been different when we eventually got the correct pattern of floor down.
Yuma, there's no need to push yourself if things get too hard.
Speaking of getting too hard.
No, I can do it. I'm going to solve it.
If you keep talking in that sleepy voice, Vivia, I'm sorry, dude. Like, Vivia actually has the exact voice that I sound like when I first wake up in the morning. Where was the culprit before the crime?
This is a map of
I'm
the
correct.
critical lab.
You want to know why I'm correct? Because they made the effort to paint out the floor grid right there. The part that looks like a Rubik's Cube, that is the floor grid. That's the doctor's lab at the far end. That's the electrical grid before the doctor's lab. That room right there is the gas chamber. The long part is the decontamination hall. I think I got this figured out, guys.
So we have to determine where the culprit was before the murder.
We'll have to solve them one at a time. Let's start with this mystery.
If we know where the culprit was before they got in, this route will be clear too. Do you know where, Yuma?
Where was the culprit before? Decontamination hall.
Here. The culprit must have been here.
Nailed it.
Yay! It opened!
Easy.
After the exchange on the intercom, given there was always a detective at the front chamber.
This initially, I want to say that this case had the most complicated of premises, but I think I've been able to deduce it to the point where it has become child's play, I think.
When we went to borrow Amapal,
But initially it was very daunting. This seemed very complicated at first initially.
but the airlock is the only location that isn't affected by the security system.
Right. They made a point in saying that.
There. The culprit had to be inside that decontamination device before committing the crime.
That's what I had thought. That's what I had surmised as well.
But I thought he was just hiding in there to avoid being spotted after the crime.
But he used it before as
The
well.
culprit was in there before the crime too?
Yes, because I believe they had to have hid from the Amapal when the Amapal first rolled into the laboratory's decontamination hall.
When we sent Amapal into the airlock.
Yeah, the airlock. So when Amapal rolled into the airlock, they took the opportunity to land on top of the Amapal's head and rode the Amapal into the security grid room.
So the culprit
Through the gas
entered
chamber.
the doctor's lab before them? How would that be possible?
By use of the Amapal, same as we did. Exactly, if we've deduced that Amapal is the only way that security could be bypassed, the culprit must have leaned on that and used Amapal same as we did.
Maybe the culprit
Just
used
in a
another
different
Amapal
way.
unit.
No, there was no other Amapal unit.
The researcher
There was
mentioned
only
there
one functioning Amapal. I said that myself.
Which means the Amapal.
The
Yuma
only
controlled
potential outcome is that the
was
culprit
only
used the
one
same
to get
Amapal
past
that we did,
security.
as we simultaneously used it to be able to enter the lab physically.
Advantage of Master's
Yes.
Amapal to get into the doctor's lab.
I believe that to be the case. I believe that to be what happened.
That's the only way. But how did they use it?
Standing upon it.
There's no solving the doctor's murder until we figure that out.
Well, I have an idea. Will you hear me out?
Is your idea the same as mine, you sexy, sexy voice,
How
man?
about giving up? I'm getting tired.
Nope, motion denied.
I believe I'm accurate here. I think I'm accurate.
Another fork in the road. Such a complicated mystery labyrinth.
Yeah, this one has a lot of forks. I think that's cool though, and it makes sense for this one. How did the culprit use Amapal? This should be a no fucking brainer.
On each problem lies the truth. We're definitely getting closer to the heart of this mystery.
As a shield. Wait, I don't know if this is as a shield or neither. It could be either one of these, depending on how you approach it. I'm gonna say shield.
Huh? What do you mean, use Amapal as a shield?
To bypass the electricity.
Amapal is supposed to be sturdy enough to withstand an elephant stepping on it.
Is this another boulder?
The culprit may
Or is this
use
something
Amapal as a
else?
shield against the security system.
That's what I thought.
So, the culprit followed behind Amapal to avoid the toxic gas and explosions?
No.
I get it! You're so smart, Master!
Really? I don't think so.
They stood on top of it.
Master just showed off how smart and logical he is.
Oh. Hello?
Master wasn't smart after all!
No, I think I was.
Take it from the top!
toxic gas can be bypassed with Amapal. No. Why?
Yeah! Even if Amapal itself is fine, it wouldn't be able to protect the culprit from the toxic gas.
But given that we're already here and we're physically running away from this place, running away from this thing in this sequence, that means that this must have been the case. This must have happened. The high voltage shocks can be bypassed with Amapal. I want to say no. No? Yeah, because it can't stand high
Even though Amapal is
voltages.
sturdy, it couldn't withstand the high voltage shock from the panel chamber.
Sorry, that's what I was trying to reflect upon. That's what I was trying to remember. That was kind of clutch. Because initially I wanted to say yes, because in my summary, the culprit standing on top Amapal did bypass the security eventually, but the shocks initially would have destroyed
Which
Amapal.
means it'd be
Right?
impossible to use Amapal to protect yourself.
No, it isn't. By use of Fubuki's forte, it's not.
You're only realizing this now. At this rate?
No, they
you'll
took
be a grandma
advantage.
before
No,
you
they
start
took
being
advantage of
lucky.
Fubuki's time rewinding forte to use Amapal to bypass the electric floor. I'm not doubting that at all.
Perhaps you will improve in the next life.
I'm trying my best in this life.
I'm not doubting myself. Let's go with neither as our secondary. Or are we just bricking off all these possibilities like we did with the previous haul?
Do you think neither is really the right answer?
No, I don't.
In the process of elimination, that must be it. Amapal's hands aren't designed to hold anything, so it couldn't use the knife to murder the doctor.
That's why I said using Amapal as a weapon doesn't make any fucking sense, because I remembered that the hands are ball-shaped for children.
Amapal wasn't the murder weapon.
No, it wasn't, but it was used as a tool to support the murder.
It can't neutralize the toxic gas, and the high voltage shock will destroy it.
So then, how did the culprit use Amapal?
They used it as a platform.
I think we'll find out if we continue down this path.
That's why I said, a shield is open to interpretation. It depends on how you approach it.
That was the wrong answer! Come on, Master!
But evidently we had to go down this hallway. We had to have been able to approach this reasoning by ruling the others out. So the game expected me to go down that hall. It's not a determinable thing that you can get right or wrong. This is something that we had to do.
We've been here before. It looks like we've been brought back.
Because there's something about this that we haven't been able to reason through yet, which is why it's returning us
The door
here.
we opened earlier is closed again. Why's that?
Yeah, I wonder why.
Because this is something new we have to determine. We have to apply a different context here, I think. Where was the culprit before the crime?
Huh? Even the question is the same. Does that mean we gotta do it all over again?
Well, the logic is still sound.
We have to approach this
There's
the
no
way
other
the
hiding
culprit
spot for
did.
The culprit besides the airlock.
Right.
So you want to choose the same answer and keep going?
Yes.
If you do, you'll just repeat the whole process again.
I don't think so, because I think we have a different frame of mind now that
We'll
we've
just be
gone
brought
certain
back
avenues.
here if we can't figure out how did the culprit use Amapal.
So we have to apply how did the culprit use Amapal and apply it to the duct.
And
I see what they're doing here.
refuse to
I understand.
walk any more than I have to.
We have to choose the same answers, but we have to apply how did the culprit use Amapal to the duct to be able to understand how Amapal was used to bypass the security.
What should I do?
Stand up! Stand up right now!
Stop it. Leave me alone.
If you want me to leave you alone, then help my useless master out!
Fine. Just one thing then. We're back at where was the culprit before the crime? Because you're stuck at how did the culprit use Amapal? With that in mind, these two questions are connected.
Exactly.
Connected?
Exactly.
Both the culprit's location and how
I'm with
Amapal was
Vivia.
used?
Help him out more! More!
The culprit was hiding in the airlock, where you also left the robot, right?
This is what initially brought me to the idea that Amapal was used by the culprit by use of standing on it.
At that moment, only the culprit and Amapal were there.
I
So
noticed that
maybe the
the
culprit
duct
did
is
something.
parallel to the hallway, and the decontamination duct in the security grid room with the electric floor panels is parallel to the path that we had to take to use Amapal to bypass the security grid.
The culprit did something to Amapal?
Clues are always there.
Right under your fucking nose.
It's a detective's job to notice them.
I think I got this one pegged, guys.
Did you notice anything strange back then? Any tiny detail? Try to remember.
The boot print.
Something strange.
Oh, the lock on the duct.
Hey!
Maybe.
Now that you mention it, back then... Oh, hey, the screen lit up. So
The
this is what
camera!
Amapal sees.
The camera going all fritzy. That detail.
It's like the cockpit of a mecha. Whoa, what was that?
I think this supports my idea of weight being applied to the top of Amapal where the camera is located. As much as I initially wanted to believe that the footage was altered, this is why I went into this before, when I gave my summation, when I gave my initial theory, my thesis of what happened.
Did it break already? I thought it was state of the art.
And the reason that I was brought to believe that it was stood upon is because the camera stabilized after that.
No, it's
See,
all
it
right.
stabilized
It's
immediately.
stabilized.
I believe that
There
means
was an
that's
override
evidence of
camera
pressure being
function
applied
while
to
I
the
was
top of it.
controlling Amapal. It returned to normal pretty quick, but maybe...
There's something more to that.
See? I told you it was right under your nose. You don't need any additional help from me, right?
Vivia, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I didn't need you to begin with, Sunshine.
That was a clue to help solve this mystery?
Actually, everything in this world is a key to solving mysteries. You just haven't noticed them. Perhaps there is more you're overlooking. Was there anything else unusual?
Something unusual. Something I missed.
Anything else? It's not like Amapal's camera showed the culprit.
Is there something else that I could have potentially overlooked?
Wait, that's it!
Huh?
Is this something that I overlooked?
That I think about it, wasn't that strange?
Is this an element that I didn't bring into my equation?
The culprit must have gotten ahead of Amapal, but why didn't they ever show up on the camera?
Oh no, okay, this is just to support my theory of them standing on it.
If the culprit went past Amapal to enter the doctor's lab, they would have been spotted for sure.
Not if they stood on top of it, though, making sure to stay out of the line of sight the whole time. And that's why they kicked Amapal over upon their exit of the doctor's lab.
But nobody showed up on camera. How did the culprit manage to pull that off? How can you move from the airlock to the doctor's lab without appearing even once on Amapal's camera?
Hey, aren't you just adding another mystery?
Not if you already know the answer, my dear.
No. All the pieces are here.
I concur.
Huh?
Yuma, the mysteries you face now can be solved with a single answer.
A single answer?
Sheesh.
Do not be a
Talk too
fucking
much.
barrel minigame. How did the culprit use Amapal? What caused Amapal's malfunction in the airlock? Why didn't the culprit appear on camera? Because they stood on it. That's the one answer. That is applicable to all these questions. All these statements that can be applied to.
What do you do now? It's a Pandora's box of mysteries!
In terms of reasoning, I do not think I'm wrong here. I will not
Let's
falter.
Stay calm and think about it. There's plenty of time.
Or not. I'll keep reading while you wrap things up.
You got it.
Remember what he said, Master. All it takes is one answer to solve these mysteries. Use those weak brain cells of yours and think!
Culprit's location. Amapal's usage. Its malfunction. Why didn't the culprit appear on camera? All this can be solved with just...
The only question is, what kind of minigame will this be? on top of the Amapal's head. What? What? I moved the stick right, dude. Did I have to press A there? I thought you could use the stick. That's weird. So, okay, let me explain what just happened there. After I do this. Okay, so my reasoning is not wrong. Let me explain why I got that wrong, and the reasoning that I applied. So, when you're doing QTEs, they can be done directionally with either the stick or the D-pad. I thought this similarly might be the same thing if you use left, up, and right respectively. So when it said to press A, I moved the control stick right as to indicate the placement of A.
With every open door,
that's why I got that wrong, but my reasoning is correct.
Turn back. Are you sure you want to keep going?
Absolutely.
I knew I was right about that.
No matter what. This is for the Nocturnal Detective Agency.
I did not have that wrong. My reasoning was totally right. I just moved the stick instead of pressing A, which is my own goddamn fault. The game said to press A, I should have just pressed A instead of trying to experiment with it. That and I didn't know what kind of minigame it was going to be, so honestly, admittedly, that took me a little bit by surprise.
What I said. The culprit rode Amapal and used it to get through. After we left Amapal in the airlock, the culprit came out of the decontamination device. Then they jumped on Amapal's head. The disruption in the footage was from the impact.
That's insane.
Is it?
At least smart.
I think it's fairly reasonable.
As do I.
Amapal can withstand up to 100 kilograms of weight. So, someone riding on it shouldn't affect.
And this is what I was saying before about the weight thing. That came into play numerous times, and that contributed to my ability to be able to solve this.
It was left there from the culprit hopping on and off.
After that, the culprit simply rode on it as it moved toward the doctor's lab.
But now we have to go through the possibility of it bypassing the security grid.
By doing so, the culprit was able to evade the camera.
They evaded the camera, but that doesn't support how they were able to get through the gas chamber or the electrical grid. If Amapal cannot withstand the electric currents given by the floor panels, then they must have relied on Fubuki's forte to be able to bypass that room.
But Yuma, have you not realized it? You're still missing something. One major mystery remains.
Who? Right?
What's with that huge sigh?
The greatest
That's just Vivia,
mystery
dude.
of this case should appear soon. Just the thought of it gets me feeling.
This is
down.
another thing that makes me think it's Yako. This is another thing that supports my theory of it being him, is Vivia's demeanor, his behavior here. Like, he already knows the answer, and he knew it from the beginning, but he's just helping us and supporting us to find it. I think Vivia supported Yako in the murder of the doctor. I don't think Vivia killed him directly, but I think he supported Yako in carrying it out.
This is the panel chamber.
That means the doctor's lab is just beyond it. If we can get through here, we'll reach the goal, yeah?
When did the culprit get off of Amapal? When we disabled security.
Is this
As the door was opening.
mystery you mentioned?
No, it's not.
Not exactly what I was envisioning.
Well, this is the mystery to be solved, so let's clear it out.
Righty then. When did the culprit get off of Amapal? When would it have been possible for them to get into the room ahead of us? While opening the door. Because if the Amapal's arm outstretches and disables the security, that means the electrical grid would be fine. They would be able to skirt onto the floor and get around the door. And even right now, they could easily hop off right here
At some point.
and bypass the door.
It was when the door first opened. At that moment, the culprit snuck into the doctor's room.
Yeah, when when the doors were slowly opening, just like this.
Exactly.
That's when the culprit took their chance.
Right. The moment there was enough space for a person to slip through, the culprit hopped off and went inside.
Like this?
This was my summation as well.